Okay, the last section we're working with today is finding distance between two numbers on a number line. And some of you in your homework will see where they'll show the number line like we did here, and sometimes they'll just give you the two numbers and ask you what's the distance. Now, before we get into that, off over here, let me put a little square here so you know that this is something off to the side that you'll need to know. But if we say, I'll put a 2 in there. Remember we talked about the absolute value. Okay, I didn't write that real well, but you've got the two lines on the outside of the 2 that indicate that that's an absolute value. And remember the absolute value, how we're using it before was the distance from 0. How we're using it now is the distance between two numbers. So absolute value is just the distance, and because it's distance, it doesn't matter if it's negative or positive. It just matters that it's distance. So that'll become more clear as I go through this example. So on the first one, let's look at, we'll put 2 of them in here. Change colors here. Let's make it orange, and let's go a positive 2 1/3. So starting out at 0, 1, 2 1/3. So I'm going to estimate that that's going to be a positive 2 1/3. And let's do a negative 2 2/3. So we'll go down this time. So 1, 2, and then 2/3 of the way to 3. So I'm going to estimate it's right about there. So that's a negative 2 2/3. So when we're talking about distance, we're just talking about the distance between this one and this one. And for ease, let's call this A, and we'll call this point B. So we're just looking at the distance between A and B, which is an absolute value, because we don't care if you start at 2 1/3 and go down to negative 2 2/3, you'd have a negative number. Vice versa, if you started at negative 2 2/3 and went up to 2 1/3, you'd have a positive distance. So remember that the positive and negative in this example, that doesn't mean anything, because we're only talking about the distance between point A and point B. Okay, so if we're going to find that out, obviously the question that we're going to ask ourselves is, what's the distance? Okay, so to find that out, we're going to set it up like a regular, well, subtraction problem. So we have 2 1/3, and if we subtract that from it, subtract negative 2 2/3, then that's how we set those up. That's going to help us find the distance between the two of those. So to do that, we're going to, again, we have numbers that we need to make into improper fractions, so we don't want to work with the mixed numbers. So below it, I'm going to write the ones after we work with it a little bit, and just a reminder to do that. You multiply the denominator times the whole number, and then you take that answer and you add the numerator. So 2 times 3 is 1, and then plus 1, so now we're at 7/3. Hopefully I said that right. 2 times 3 is 6, sorry. Plus 1 is 7/3. And now we're back to that rule. Remember, anytime you subtract a negative, you can make that a positive. So we're going to plus, and then we're going to convert this one. So 3 times 2 again is 6, plus 2 more is 8/3. And remember, this is all positive because the minus and the negative went away using that rule. So now we have two fractions that they do have the same denominator. So we can go ahead and we know that it's over 3. We don't have to change anything. And these are both positive, so we just add them just like it says. So 7 plus 8 will give you 15. And so we have 15/3, which is an improper fraction, so we make that back into a mixed number, but in this case it won't be a mixed number because 3 goes into 15 evenly. So if 3 goes into 15 5 times, and there's nothing left over for a fraction. So the answer to this is 5. Okay, so the distance between A and B is 5 units. Okay, so you have a few questions like that, and that should finish it out for today.